Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia and this is the Trade War SITREP. I haven't done the Trade War SITREP for a while, but there is a lot of developments that I really want to cover. Many things that I did say might happen had happened. So I told you so. So anyway, we're gonna start off with some of these major ones. So this is the Trade War focus page. You can find this, of course you can see in the link below. And one of the first thing I want to say is this one, the Keystone development, the US baseline 10% tariff on imports is now confirmed. So I have mentioned this that a long time ago when they first announced during the reciprocal tariff announcement on the Liberation Day. I said that Donald Trump will make this 10% a universal import tax. It's going to be like the baseline, and this is now confirmed with a statement coming out from Donald Trump saying that the US will maintain a baseline 10% tariff on imports even if after trade deals are struck, adding that there could be exemptions when countries offer significant trade terms. So this is basically exactly as I have told you guys is going to happen more than a month ago, when the reciprocal tariff thingy was first mentioned. And I based on my observation that even though countries with trade deficit with United States like Singapore, where I am from, has been slapped with a 10% tariff, I think it's a baseline thing. Because most countries actually have some kind of a tariff or tax system that taxes imports. Like even in Singapore's case, there is no import tax per se, specifically. However, there is a GST. So the GST is actually considered a form of import tax at 9%. So all in all, I think 10% is pretty fair. And I feel like it is a definite need for United States to actually just protect themselves slightly. So a 10% will prevent dumping of useless rubbish goods into the country. So it's actually not much. Like a $10 thing is just now $11. Is 10% is actually not much. If you really want to think about it. So just that it prevents like really no useless stuff to be imported, and that means, for example, if both sides make toys, okay, for example toys, the toy from the overseas will be 10% more expensive, and of course made in third world countries will be cheaper. So generally there is not much of a difference, but they are more competitive, and which means that the foreign made toy or whatever product it is have to be on a slightly better quality in order to able to compete. If not, for a very cheap price, a very cheaply made product, without a very cheap price, it's not going to be competitive. So this is actually not a bad thing. Most countries have something like this to protect their own industry or market. It's not a particularly special thing, but it's important to know that it's confirmed. And another very important keystone development is China has quietly exempted even more products. So in the last situation report, I mentioned that they have quietly removed tariff on certain products. This number of products have expanded after consultations within China, with all the industry leaders and whatnot. They realized that they actually need a lot of things. So China have quietly exempted a quarter of all US imports from tariff, covering $40 billion worth of imports. So the list exempted covering 131 items, including pharmaceutical, industrial chemicals, and all this is circulating within among the traders and businesses. There is no official statement about this, but this is actually confirmed. So this calculation is around 24% of the Chinese import from the United States, calculated by Bloomberg, based on Chinese custom data in 2024. So the list is unclear where it comes from per se, but a dozen of companies in China were able to bring in products from the list without paying tariff, according to people familiar with the matters, but they ask not to be identified discussing confidential information. And basically this is the reason why there's all this secrecy. There's two things. The people that is actually getting the tariff-free imports, they cannot say it because they are inside a communist country. It's as no, I'm not sure if it's a surprise to you that China is a communist country, but China is a communist country. It is an authoritarian regime. You may disagree, but that's the reality in the country. Going, exposing country's secret or going against a country's interest per se. No, interest can be very flexible in China's term. They will get punished. You don't be surprised by the way of the creative ways they can punish Chinese citizens. So including like you got wiped out from the social media, all sort of things. So but this is good news for a quarter of the US exporters. And I just want to explain a little bit on this as well. You all know most of the things in the world is now produced in China. China produces most of the products. A lot of things is produced in China. So you agree, right? We agree. So, but then if they produce most of the things, what do they import? Only the essential. They will not import anything that is useless. Agree, right? So when they tariff things that they're going to import, and everything that they import is essentials, what happens? They're punishing themselves. Agree, right? So this is the reason why this trade war for me, it don't make a lot of sense. Especially when China do they counter tariff United States. It makes zero sense because everything that they import is essential. China do not import useless stuff. They do not import consumer products unless it's luxury. And even the luxury ones are suffering because economy is actually poor. It's not good in China for the past few years, ever since the COVID. So a lot of luxury brands actually is not selling as well as previously. So and you don't believe, fact check me. Go and search it yourself. You don't have to take it from me. Although I do the video so that you can take it from me. But if you don't believe, fact check yourself. Luxury sales in China has been dropping for the past few years. So this is not a surprise thing. It's not even a secret. No, just that you are not paying attention. so it's your fault. It's not my fault. I'm telling you, you disagree, write in the comments and complain about it. It helps with the algorithm. So anyway, so this is one big thing. So more big things. The EU have basically set duties on China construction machineries. So this is after they have investigated the Chinese after complaints, and they have imposed duties, basically import tax or tariff, up to 66.7% on Chinese machines that lift construction workers. So basically it's like those construction lift thingy, MAE, mobile access equipments. So this is to protect domestic producers because the EU market worth more than a billion euro per year. So according to the information, they have conducted the investigation, and the MAE producers has benefited from preferential financing, grants, state provision of inputs from below market rates. And as such, the Chinese producers gained a 41% market share from 2022, down from 29% in 2020. So they basically gained more and more market share within 2 years, and they sold prices 20% below EU competitors. So this is something that I have already warned long time ago. I've mentioned this ever since I've talking about China trade things. I've done this in live streams, in other videos, in DPA open mic. I've mentioned this before, and I'm going to tell you again. China's trade practices, the way how they do business, is going to eventually attract more and more countries to either tariff or eventually cut trade with China. It is basically untenable. You cannot because there is not a fair trade. China all have state support, and also a lot of currency manipulation and all sort of things to increase Chinese competitiveness. There is not even counting about how the lack of workers' rights is being implemented within China. That's an internal thing, but all in all, it reduced the cost price, the production price and selling price of Chinese products to the point where it destroys industries in the importing countries, and as a result, people will get poorer. The industry, the countries get deindustrialized, and eventually no one is able to buy anything because they don't make money, and because all the money just go one way into China, and eventually then China will lose money as well because nobody is buying their things, which is exactly something that's happening over the past few years. So this thing is now, you can see that EU is also in some sort of a trade war with China. It's just not at the level at what is happening between United States and China, but it is happening. So, and I have a whole list here on the page, all the trade actions between all the different countries with China, and also between EU and China. There's long histories between all these things. It's not a new thing. All these things had been happening. You are not paying attention. So, and this is nothing to do with being anti-China or pro-China. This is our facts. Every country has been affected by China's low price strategy. Honestly, even within China, they are suffering from this strategy among themselves. Chinese companies are killing each other with this price slashing to the point where they don't even make profit. Some of them even make losses just to compete, and this leads to deflation within China, and everybody's killing each other. People are losing jobs. Companies are going bankrupt. All happening within China. So the China strategy is also killing themselves, even within the domestic market. So just to tell you, you don't believe, you fact check me. Everything is not a secret. All this can be found. All this information can be found. So anyway, so this 66.7%, and then of course yet another big news is the US UK has reached a trade deal. This is so many big news happening since the last trade war SITREP. The US and UK have reached a trade deal agreement in principle to provide significant expansion in US market access in UK. So I just want to go through some of these major points. I have basically looked at the agreement. So I look from both sides. So I look at the US official statement and then government statement on the White House website, and I also looked at from the UK government's official statement as well, from the UK government website. So this is the full list. We have so basically the main thing for the US is the increased US market access into United Kingdom. So including ethanol and other agricultural products. So what happens is that the UK will remove tariff on ethanol, which is used in production of plastic. So this will go to zero. So UK will have zero tariff on ethanol coming from United States. They will negotiate a digital trade provision. So this is just not, they just agree to negotiate. They will so the supply chain of the US aerospace manufacturer will go through a preferential access to high quality UK aerospace components, which means the United States companies is going to get first pick. They're going to get preferential access, maybe less barriers, all sort of things. So they're going to be seen as a priority customer. Same thing happened for the pharmaceutical products. So then UK government will close loopholes in procurement that harms US and UK firms. So mainly because if you, let's say, go by price, if they pick something procurement based on purely price, then they may pick from something from other, maybe from China, maybe from some cheaper countries. So now they agree to give each other preferential procurement access. So this helps to grow each other's businesses. So UK and US will now feed each other to have increased trade between the two countries. So this is something that is happening. Um, and then one of the big ones is that United States will slash tariff on vehicles exported from United Kingdom to United States. The first 100,000 vehicles will drop from 27.5%, the current tariff, to 10%. And then any additional vehicles after the 100,000 will be subjected to a 25% rate on top of the most favored nation tariff. However, so it looks like, there's a limit to this tariffing, this preferential tariff. However, this applies to 100,000 vehicles, but there's also the full total amount of export the UK have exported in terms of vehicles. So while it's not a big amount of vehicles that is being counted in this, and this is also repeated by Donald Trump himself, but all these vehicles are luxury vehicles. So which means that UK luxury vehicles like Rolls-Royce, Jaguar, whatnot, is going to get better profit, when they export to United States, and they'll have a competitive advantage against other luxuries cars coming from any other countries. So, and UK don't have the massive China scale of vehicle production. So this actually works perfectly for United Kingdom, because they are doing luxury cars. So it's perfectly fine for them. They are not like Japan or South Korea or China in terms of the vehicle production. So 100,000 is perfectly good for UK, and from the UK perspective, this protected workers' jobs. So they are very happy with this deal. And also the steel and aluminium tariff is now effectively reduced to zero under this new deal. I think they're going to negotiate further. I think this temporarily is down to zero, but I think they might negotiate. Maybe there will be some kind of a tariff increase on steel and aluminium from United Kingdom. But this one is not, but tentatively it looks like it's going to zero entirely. And then the UK and the US both has now reciprocal market access on beef. So both of them will now be able to sell beef to each other. The quota is 13,000 metric tons. So I believe this is reciprocal, which means that there's 13,000 going both ways. So consumers is going to have more choices in terms of beef. You can buy US beef or you can buy UK beef. So similarly in UK, you're now going to get US beef. So, and UK did mention that the US beef that's coming into UK market will have the same health safety standards. So to reassure UK public. There's only one hiccup, is that on the US US website, they did express disappointment that UK refused to remove the digital service tax, something that the US have threatened to tariff UK over. However, I think the grand scale of things, of the trade deals and everything, I think maybe that's why they decided to still go ahead with everything else, and then they reserve this negotiation further, which is probably this digital trade provision thing that they are going to negotiate. Maybe this is something to do with the digital service tax. So all in all, the first deal has been signed with US with a third country. So between US and a third country, this is the first deal. I thought it's going to be India, but UK actually got it first. Not sure if what is next, but this actually becomes a model or a good example of how all these negotiations is going to be like. So it's going to be look very mutual beneficial to both sides, and it's not going to be like a punishing thing. It's not like a US punish any other country. They just want something to be more fair, and it looks like it for UK. So we shall see how this continue to develop in terms of these negotiations, but tentatively this is what it is. So coming to China US, there is of course the big news. The US delegation have met with the Chinese delegation in Geneva in Switzerland. Scott Bessent and the US Trade Representative Jamieson Greer, they meet with the Vice Premier of China He Lifeng delegation in Switzerland, Geneva. So they have made some progress, if it's even called progress. So Trump actually said about the meeting, saying that it's a he hailed the meeting, saying the two sides negotiated a total reset in a friendly but constructive manner. So they say that it's a very good meeting with China in Switzerland. Many things were discussed, agreed to. And then they said, we want to see for the good of both China and US and opening up to China to the American business. Great progress made. So so he's basically doing cheerleading. So that's what Donald Trump is doing. He's doing cheerleading. Nothing is confirmed. They just agree to talk. That's all. That's all it is. A great reset is basically what I did mention is the plan. The idea is to cut China off. Number one plan. If China do not play ball, and they were going to cut China off the international trade system, the US led one. So that's what I think China is doing, or what Trump is doing. However, unless China surrenders. But I also mentioned before, based on the economic system and the troubles that's happening within China right now, China cannot actually surrender to the United States at all in this trade war. They just cannot. If they do, they suffer. But if they don't, they also suffer. So there is no win for China in this trade war. At least that's my point of view. You can disagree, and I'm quite sure a lot of people disagree. It's perfectly fine. We shall see how this goes. And total reset is basically exactly what I'm expecting, because whatever trade model and economic system that China is employing right now and vis-a-vis United States can no longer work anymore. A massive reform, economic reform, have to happen within China in order for China to continue to trade with the United States. If not, as long as Trump is still the president of the United States, I don't think we're going to see a normalization of trade unless there's a massive reset happening within China in terms of its economic system. But the depth of the troubles within China is too deep. They can't actually reset their economic system without severe pain, although they are already suffering right now. So I'm not sure how China is going to navigate this. This is going to be super difficult. My thought, I believe what China is doing is just to drag it out as much as they can, at least until the midterms, because Trump might lose the midterms in the United States, and if Republican loses one of the House or Senate, then Trump will be curtailed in his ability to do anything with China. At least limits his powers. Then China may have some saving grace, or have some things that they can escape somewhat. But it's going to be very difficult, because that's the whole point of the tariff war right now. The 245% or whatnot, is implemented on China by the United States is deliberately to make it impossible for China to wait it out, because that's what China did in the first term of Donald Trump when they first have this US-China trade war. China basically deployed this strategy of negotiating for time, so that they dragged it for as long as possible, and then until Trump got kicked out of government, and that actually gave China a bit of time, a bit of respite. However, China did screw it all up because of COVID-19, because they limited export of things, especially essentials like pharmaceutical stuff, and that scares the hell out of many countries. On top of that, the COVID containment strategy, where they keep closing down factories and locking down cities time and time again, actually caused a lot of companies to actually move their production overseas, because they cannot deal with this unpredictability when it comes to production. And that also lost a lot of goodwill to China, but from the view of many of these large corporations or MNCs. So that already damaged the Chinese economy, contributing one of the many things that's contributing to the current slump in Chinese economy. So, and then this massive trade war is just it's a massive booster to this level of pressure that is currently China is facing. So yeah, this is what it is. and the pressure on China continues. So within in Malaysia, which is this is a keystone development as well. On the 5th of May, the Malaysian have tightened rules on transshipment of foreign goods. Uh, and I believe, if I'm not wrong, there is an instance of a shipment from Malaysia to United States. I haven't I saw this rumor. I haven't actually fact checked this myself, but it seems to be the case. That triggers this actual response by Malaysia. A shipment from Malaysia to United States was identified as transshipment from China, and this caused maybe some kind of panic within Malaysia, which is why the Malaysian Ministry of Investment and Trade and Industry (MITI) has announced that now the government will be the only body that can issue non-preferential certificate of origins, the MPCO, for shipments to the United States. So previously they can issue this from other places like local business council, chambers, or associations. So now no one can issue this certificate of origin anymore. Only the Malaysian government, because the Malaysian government need more control over this thing, because any more transshipment coming from China through Malaysia to United States is going to complicate Malaysia's trade negotiation with Donald Trump. And this is why this entire reciprocal tariff game, this entire trade war, global trade war that is waged by Donald Trump on the entire world, especially on Southeast Asian countries like Malaysia, Vietnam, works, because there is no benefit to any countries outside of China like Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, or Indonesia or Philippines to side with China, to help China transship their products at the expense of their own country. It is not worth it. Basically, why would they do that? They earn nothing from it. Transshipment don't earn all these countries any money. For Vietnam or Malaysia or Thailand, they don't earn anything from transshipment. So it's totally not beneficial for all these countries. And what it does, it only warps the data. They warps the export import numbers. So suddenly, like Vietnam or even Cambodia suddenly have massive export to United States for no reason at all. They don't even have the kind of level of industry. The reason why the export number is so huge is purely because it is all products coming from China into these countries and export into the United States. And this resulted in massive trade imbalance between United States and all these different countries that was being treated as transshipment hub. So, which is why I said, multiple SITREP ago, you might say that, oh, only like 13% or how many, some low teens numbers of export actually go from China to United States. That's actually not the reality. There is only shipments coming from China directly to United States. There's a huge another maybe 13% or more that actually goes through a third country to go to the United States. And this actually is reflected in the numbers, in the trade surplus in Vietnam, in Malaysia, in Thailand, and all these countries getting tariffed in this reciprocal tariff thingy that Donald Trump have imposed, is to basically threaten all of these countries that if you continue to work for China to export things into the United States, you guys are going to pay for it. You guys will be the one paying for this tariff that is supposed to be applied on Chinese goods. So now Malaysia, you shall absorb it. Now Cambodia, you shall absorb it. Now Vietnam, you shall absorb it. You will be absorbing all these costs for China, because it's supposed to be going for China, but you want to take it, then you shall absorb it. And this is why all the countries in Southeast Asia is actually trying to quickly mitigate this thing. And this is just the Malaysian side. So in Vietnam is the same. They have so let me zoom down along this chart. So Vietnam on the 15th of April have issued a directive to crack down on illegal transshipment. This happened on April 15th, right soon after the reciprocal tariff thing, which is Vietnam's very quick reaction to the trade war. And this directive is supervision and inspection to be strengthened on imported goods to establish their origins, especially imported raw materials used for production and export. There will also be stricter procedures that will be implemented to inspect factories and supervise the release of the Made in Vietnam labels, especially for enterprises with sudden increase in the number of applications for the certificate of origins. So Vietnam is already stepping up to control this transshipment problem within Vietnam, because Vietnam is getting punished for it. So which is why Vietnam is one of the first to quickly negotiate with United States. They immediately told Donald Trump they would cut all tariff from of imports from United States to 0%. It's mainly because of this, because Vietnam themselves, the government themselves, know that they are actually being used as a transshipment hub. They just closed one eye all this while, and they now is in the crosshair and they are panicking. The Deputy Prime Minister of Vietnam, Ho Duc Phoc, has arrived in United States, expected to meet with Scott Bessent, but I'm not sure if he actually met with Scott Bessent at all. Maybe he was meeting someone else, because Scott Bessent is actually in Geneva on the same day to meet with the Chinese delegation. So maybe this Deputy Prime Minister is met with someone else. Maybe it's a snub by the United States. That could also be the case. Not entirely sure. And it might be a snub because in April, so the transshipment from China to the United States actually reached a record high. Despite that Vietnam is doing a massive crackdown on all these trade frauds. So the surplus with United States has expanded by 25% in the 4 months to April, year on year. So according to the Vietnam Statistics Agency. So the number in March alone exceeded $13.5 billion US dollars, the highest monthly figure ever. So based on US data. And you can now see why Vietnam is panicking, because what the hell Vietnam actually produced that is bought by the United States? Even they have this expanding manufacturing, it doesn't make sense for them to have such huge numbers. So the shipment in April exceeded 12 billion, 34% higher than a year ago. And so this huge surge might be because the Chinese goods immediately quickly tried to transship from Vietnam to United States to avoid the tariff. And this actually ramps up the all these export to the United States, causing even bigger trade imbalance. So according to the Vietnam custom data, the Vietnam's deep sea port handles most of the country's seaborne export to the United States, experienced a surge in shipment to the United States. And at the same time, Vietnam is ramping up imports from China, which also reached a post-pandemic record of $15 billion. So 15 billion import, 12 billion export. Where do you think all these are? Yes, these are all transshipment. These are all Chinese product going to Vietnam to go to United States. So easily 15 minus 12, we are talking about, not 15 minus 12. Basically, 15 billion imports. So they basically only consume 3 billion of it from China. That means 3 billion of the imports from China is actually consumed domestically, but everything else is actually export to United States. So that is the main thing. And so this is why Vietnam is panicking. They are trying to send their Deputy Prime Minister to try to negotiate, but I feel United States is going to ignore them until they can actually cut out the transshipment entirely. So which is why that's what Malaysia is doing. Malaysia, that's why they stop anyone from able to issue this origin certificate by anyone else except the government, so that the government have full control over this transshipment problem. Because if you let other people issue this certificate, then of course people can be bought out. There's corruption. It's people give you a bit more money. And based on the article that is talking about it, some of these transshipment certificate was sold at a very, very low price. So there is actually a business, in issuing this certificate as well. So there are people who is middlemen and benefited from all these things. So these are all real problems. No, these are not all made up shit. No, these are all real things. So the real percentage, the real dependency of China's export to the United States is way bigger than this 13.5% or what percent that China have said. It's actually way bigger than that. So we shall see how it continue to unravel within China. A lot of information here and there coming out seems to suggest that a lot of companies starting to close down. A lot of people is getting laid off in China. Problems is getting worse. The drive to push export to internal domestic consumption is failing because, like I said right earlier in the video, the internal competition, the price war within China is already very, very bad. So it is not so easy to move your export to sell internally because firstly price is a problem, and generally consumption is very poor in China because everybody is getting paid very, very little salary. So they don't have the consumption capability, and anyone that bought houses, especially because the housing was a bubble previously, no one actually have spare cash to buy things. Very few people have the capability to buy things. So consumption market in China is horrible. So you can hope whatever you want to hope. You can look at the beautiful skyline in Shenzhen or in Shanghai or whatever. Yeah, that's just surface thing. The reality is different. You can also go to New York and look very beautiful buildings and whatnot. But then you can after that you go to the center of the United States where towns and cities that was abandoned, you also look at shit. So don't look at the surface and believe that is the reality. If you go to North Korea, Pyongyang is actually quite pretty as well. If you look at the skyline. So don't believe just the surface thing. I'm trying to tell you what it is. Like I said, you can do your own research. It's perfectly fine. So there are other things. China is trying to maneuver, and they actually co-host one of this meeting along with Malaysia on this ASEAN plus 3 format. So the ASEAN plus 3, South Korea, Japan, and China. So mainly this is this arrangement. This is a meeting between finance minister and central bank governors. So this is largely related to the RCEP, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. So this is like a supply chain or within this Asia Pacific thingy, all links with China, and generally is to maximize their export to the United States. So they made a public a joint statement. It's a very long statement. So I draw out one of these, which is the more significant one, is them reaffirming their full commitment to multilateralism, rule-based, non-discriminatory, free, fair, open, inclusive, equitable, transparent, multilateral trading system with WTO at its core. So it's just words, okay? So it's just words. Don't think too much about it. But it is a major statement. So which is why I put it in, to show that everybody admitted that there is uncertainty and long-term structural shift. That is the reality. Donald Trump is creating uncertainty, and he is restructuring the entire economic system, and it's going to be long-term. So this is something that is happening right now. So what else do we have? Let me check. Okay, there's also EU. EU actually have, let me look for the thing. EU actually have slapped some duties also. Oh, that I mentioned already. Okay, so I mentioned that already. Transshipment, meet with this. Let me see what else do we have. The minimis. Yeah, I think I have covered largely all the major news that is happening recently. So yeah, so I think I covered everything. That's really good. So we are expecting more negotiations to come. So far, I think the China-US meeting is a nothing burger. It's very hard to tell because China is also a very big country. Don't expect their government to work like in tandem. There may be factions within China as well. So just something to note. They are trying to, like, the official foreign ministry statement is largely still, we will not surrender and we will not negotiate unless the tariff is removed. That's what the China's position was, but then they still met. So, and then the China's foreign ministry basically say, like, they are like they are the magnanimous side. They're willing to talk to the United States because the United States begged to talk. That is the China's perspective. For Trump, he said he don't really care about who is calling who. He said that no, as long as it's a good deal, then it's good. But like I said, whatever United States is asking from China can't give. They just cannot give what United States wants. If they could, they have already done it in the first Trump's term, but they cannot. And the situation now has gone worse than in the Trump's first term, because during the Trump's first term, there was no COVID, most of it, when they were negotiating this trade deal. And those days, China already cannot accede to any of these American demands. Now it's going to be worse. Now, because of the COVID debacle, a lot of countries have moved out. A lot of corporations have already moved out of China, or they are in the process of moving out of China. And domestic, because of all these things, the domestic situation is quite bad. That also caused the bubble to burst, the real estate bubble to burst, and it's all going down the drain. So, but you can disagree, you can disagree, and China is great and whatnot. But I don't agree. But we shall see. Still months to come before we will see the full transparent result of the trade war on China's economy. So this tariff will not be removed. This 145% to 245% on. So let me move out. Do I have this number? Okay. So this tariff by United States to 145%, which can also go up to 245% depending on products. This will stay for a extended period of time, until basically China have no choice but to give up, which means that don't expect this tariff to be removed anytime soon. So I just put it out there. Don't expect it. And also, I don't believe Trump will do this goodwill thing with China. Like, I'm going to reduce like 20% so that, we can talk. I don't think they will do that for China, because from his experience with China, negotiating with China, I don't think he trusts China at all. So anyway, that's it. Thank you for watching. Do press the like button, subscribe. So this is the War SITREP. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next update.